Hello guys, welcome to Ramta Solutions. Today we are helping you with grade 10 functions. So without any waste of time, let's get into our work. So this question says, given the following diagram, we can see the diagram. This is a parabola which I expect the a to be negative, and I see this is the y-intercept, this is the y-intercept, which is also q, which is equal to 8, and this is x-intercept of the parabola. This is another x-intercept, which is point C, right? And this point is also x-intercept of the straight line. When you look at the straight line, I expect the gradient to be negative as well because as you can see, the line is moving in this way. It's a decreasing function. So again, for the straight line, I see our y-intercept is -4, so C is -4. Now we have all the information we need to can find the equations. So without any waste of time, let's answer the questions. Question 6.1 says, determine the equations of the graphs of f and g shown above. So we will start with f of x. F of x is a parabola. In grade 10 you say ax squared plus q. So you say, I told you our q was 8. So maybe let's say f of x equals ax squared plus 8. There's a point that this graph passes on, which is point B, which has coordinates -2 and 0. Now, what does it mean? It means on this formula, or on this equation, where there's x, we will put -2, where there's y, we will put 0. Remember, y or f of x. So we will say 0 equals a into -2 square plus 8. Now we have 4a plus 8, -4a equals 8. Therefore, a equals -2. We can conclude and say f of x is basically equal to 2x squared plus 8. Indeed, like I was expecting, I expected our a to be negative because the graph is frowning. So we are on the right track. All right, now let's then head to g of x. G of x is a straight line. We expect it to have the form mx plus c. However, I told you g of x, the y-intercept was -4, so we are sorted. Again, a point that g of x passes on that is clear, other than the y-intercept, is point B. Remember, I'm saying other than the y-intercept is point B. If you use the y-intercept, you will find that your gradient is 0, and that is not true. So point B has coordinates -2 and 0. So again, 0 equals -2m minus 4. Right? Okay. Now, we say 2m equals -4. Therefore, m equals -2. Just like I was telling you, I was expecting the gradient to be negative. So we have g of x equals minus 2x minus 4. We are done. We are sorted. Now, continuing, let's go to 6.2. 6.2 says FG, this is FG, is parallel to the y-axis. Determine the length of the vertical line FG. So this has a constant x value. So since it has a constant x value, I advise you say top minus bottom. But before you do that, you can do it in 3 ways. I will say, you can say FG is equal to, the top function is f, So we'll say f of 1 minus g of 1. If you remember, you know your formulas of f of x and g of x. F of x was minus 2x squared plus 8. So you can say this is minus 2 into 1 square plus 8 minus, what is g? G was negative 2x. Here is it, negative 2x. X is 1 minus 4, right? So what do we have here? We have minus 2 plus 8 minus 2. So this is minus, so okay, minus 6. And then this is minus 2 plus 8 plus 6. Therefore, we have 12 units. What does it mean? It means FG is 12 units. Let me show you another way where we will need to find the coordinates of F and G. So I will say, or let's look for F of 1. F of 1 is this point here, right? Because this is f of x and the x value is 1. We are given that the x value is 1. What is it? It is minus 2 into 1 square plus 8. This is 6. We can conclude and say point F has coordinates 1 and 6, right? Cool. Now let's look for g of 1. G of 1 is minus 2 into 1 minus 4. This is minus 6. Therefore, we can say point G has coordinates 1 and minus 6. Now, we can say FG is equal to, again, I want you guys to remember that you can say top minus bottom. You can still use the distance formula. Now that you have F and G, you can use the distance formula. But I won't use the distance formula because this is 3 marks. So I will say this is, remember, top minus bottom. The top y value is 6 minus the bottom y value is minus 6. Now what is our answer? Our answer is 12 units. Otherwise, you can use distance formula. Okay, you can use distance formula. Distance formula will also give you 12 units. Okay, all right, guys. Now 6.3 says write down the range of f. Remember, in the videos that we gave you guys, we said when a is positive, your graph looks like this. You will say y is an element of real numbers and y, as you can see, is greater or equal to q. And when a is negative, your function is like this. We'll say y is an element of real numbers and y is less or equal to q. Can you see that? It will take any values of y as long as they are equal to q or less. If it is less than q, it will not work. So what we are looking for, we are looking for this one. This one is our preference, right? This one is our preference. Now to answer the question, we will say y is an element of real numbers and y is less or equal to, what is the value of q? 8. By so doing, we are done. Now let's go to 6.4. So 6.4 says determine the values of x for which f of x is greater or equal to 0. It says f of x is greater or equal to 0. What this means is that basically it's asking you which values of x have corresponding y values that are positive. That are positive, right? This is what the question is asking you. for which determine the values of x for which f of x is greater than 0. So which values of x have corresponding y values that are positive? Look at the values of x below this line, meaning when x is less than -2. We're looking at f of x, right? We're looking at f of x. When you look at it, look at it, any value below -2, meaning you go to the left, it has a corresponding y value that is negative. We are not looking for that. Now, let's look to the right of -2. X value is still negative, but look at the y values. They are positive. They are positive until you get to 2. Alright? Until you get to 2. When you get to 2, what is happening? When you get to 2, it's okay. But as you go over 2, meaning when x is greater than 2, your corresponding y values are negative. We are not looking for that. Remember, f of x means y. So this means y value is positive, right? This means y value is positive. Now, what this tells us, again, there is a condition here. There is a condition here. The condition is it should be greater than 0, meaning it should not be equal to 0. So I will say when x is greater than -2 but less than 2, and this is how we solve it. Okay, and then we have our full 12 marks. All right guys, this is it. Bye bye.